some sort of thing here. Okay, so very good afternoon to you, to all of you, those who are physically present here and those who are spiritually present. So all type of presence is welcome. My voice is ricocheting with my own, so something is going on. Yeah.
Did you take attendance?
Sorry?
Did you take attendance before we start?
Attendance. You know what? We all are present in our life. I was born in 1970, and I have been present for the last 50 years. And I'm sure everybody is present. So anybody who exists on this planet is present. Okay? Sorry for a very vague answer. All right. Last week, we were discussing certain things, but in a very passing comment. I don't know what to do now.
Driving lessons.
Sometimes it happens in life that you're very vulnerable, but you don't want to show your vulnerability. I'm doing exactly the same thing. Yeah. So if you guys can mute your mics, I would appreciate. But at any stage you have a question, query, at that time you can send a message through chat. Okay? So I would appreciate if you can all mute your mics. Yeah. Last week when we met in the lecture, we were discussing about this concept of production possibility curve, PPC. As an acronym. I want some more discussion about it. I was not very contented with the discussion we had last time. We just made some passing comments about PPC, but we didn't go really deeper into it. And this is the first concept which you all need to learn thoroughly. If you look at the shape of the production possibility curve, I'm visualizing an overly simplistic economy when we have only two products to make, and the one is clothing and the other is food, and the resources are given. Because at a given point of time, our resources are fixed. You cannot change the resources overnight. It takes ages before the economy are able to enhance their resource base. So at a given point of time, the resources are given and constant. And you can see here that as the economic planners of the country, whichever country this picture reflects, as they want to move from food to clothing, which means that they want to make more clothing. But the problem is that if they want to make more clothes, they have to give up food, because it's not possible that you can have food and clothing more at the same time, because we have a choice. We have the fixed resources, you know. So what happens is that as you move from X to Y, for one extra, look at the cursor, that's very crucial to notice. For one additional clothing, you give up 1 unit of Y. Y means the vertical axis, which means food I'm measuring, and the x-axis, the horizontal axis, I'm measuring clothing. So for one extra unit of clothing, you give up 1 unit of food. Understandable. But the problem becomes complicated when you still want to move from one additional unit of clothing. But this time, guess what? You are not giving up 1 unit of food. You are giving up 2 units of food to get 1 extra unit of clothing. So my conjecture is that next time, if you are going to have 1 additional unit of food, let's say from 6 to 7, you will give up 3 units of clothing. So what happens is that as we are having more and more of clothing, our additional marginal incremental sacrifice of food is increasing, isn't it? So it doesn't happen that I'm making one additional clothing and I keep giving the constant amount of, giving up the constant amount of food. Yeah? I will discuss why it happens. But because of this incremental sacrifice, the shape of this production possibility curve becomes like this. Does anybody know what is the scientific name of this kind of curve? You must have done in sciences or maths before, but no, not a big problem. Do you remember any word when the curve is like this? Huh? It's called convex to the origin. Line is convex. So if you compare, now if we slightly move away from economics to mathematics, we find geometry, we find that the shape of this curve is convex to the origin. Because our additional sacrifice is increasing. And if our additional sacrifice, so imagine that every time you move from X to Y, Y to Z, and so on and so forth, if you are giving up the same amount of Y, then the line would have been a straight line. Does it make sense? So if we were making not incremental, but constant sacrifice of food to get extra unit of clothing, then our line, this PPC, would have been a straight line. And guess what? If to get 1 unit of X, your additional sacrifice was going down, shrinking, then the line would have been, okay, let me draw it because then it's easy. We have some drawing features, I guess. Yeah. So it seems that don't laugh at my drawing. At the moment, it seems that our production possibility curve is like this. Have you seen such beautiful handwriting? Never, you will never see it. There is a word called calligraphy. You know calligraphy? There's an art of writing those scriptures, and there is an opposite of calligraphy called cacography. This is cacography champion. So you find here is that, what you see is that if I make some kind of, if I just try to copy, imitate, ape, the image of PPC, which I showed you in the slide, nicely drawn, because I copied it. If I make a copy of that, copy, then the curve looks like this, okay? And just imagine, if my marginal sacrifice was constant, remember in the example, first I gave up 1 unit of food to get 1 extra unit of clothes. Then next time to get 1, I sacrifice 2. And my conjecture is that this contribution, this sacrifice would go on and on and on. But imagine if I was making a constant sacrifice. If I was giving up the constant amount of food for the constant additional amount of clothing, then I would guess that all else being equal, ceteris paribus, my line would look like, the PPC would look like almost straight line. Almost straight line. And if the opposite, even extreme example, if to make 1 extra unit of clothing, my additional sacrifice of food was going down, then I would assume that this would look like this. Can you visualize? This is called convex to the origin. How can I? Oh, yeah, it's here. So here, the PPC is convex to the origin. The convexity, I think it's a term we use in physics also. We have convex lens and concave lens. There are some lens when you see the object close. And there are some lenses, if you see, it's like pushes the image far away. And I think these opticians, they also use these convex and concave lenses when they want to check your eyesight, right? Well, who knows better than me? Yeah, so the curve is convex to the origin, and then straight line. And if the line is like this, if the curve is like this, then I would call it concave to the origin. The fact of the matter is that we never have this type of shape. We don't have this type of shape. What is this? Yeah, we don't have this type of shape. The most common shape in the economy is this, which means that as you are producing one, the sacrifice of the other is increasing. And this is exactly my question to you is, ask yourself, what could be the possible reasons? Why don't we have this situation? Why don't, when the PPC is a straight line, why don't we have this situation when we have the PPC as a concave to the origin? Why only and only this shape exists? I want you to do some brainstorming and make some ideas, make some educated guesses, not the fluke, but the guesses, educated guesses that what could be the potential reasons for this shape to exist. And as I showed you, I'll take it away. As I showed you before, no. As I showed you before that this is what reality is. The reality is that our production possibility curve is convex to the origin. Why it is convex? Why not a straight line? And why not a concave curve? Why only convex curve? That's my question to you. Thoughts? Mm-hmm. You better make mistakes here. So, which I made. I thought that I would never dare to show you again. Now the question is that where are that drawing? Maybe they still exist here. Oh yes, lucky me, or unlucky me. Any guesses? Why do have this shape? Why not this? Why not this? You want to say something?
Can I guess?
Yeah, I'll come to you. Just a sec. Yeah. Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. But that's my precisely the question, that why is the opportunity cost increasing? Look, you gave a right answer. As we move from X to Y, X to Y, your opportunity cost of making one additional unit of clothing is equal to 1 unit of food, yeah? And the next time from Y to Z, the opportunity cost of making one extra unit of clothing is equal to 2 units of food. So our opportunity cost is definitely increasing. And that's my exactly the question, that why does this opportunity cost increase? Look, if I start writing food here and clothing here, the curve would be same. So it doesn't matter who comes on Y or who comes on X. No, that will not change. The reality would remain same. But do think, guess. There was someone who said that if some online...
Can I guess?
Yeah, guess.
Well, the straight line doesn't actually show the reality of life, because life is not straight. Like, life is not straight ahead. It's like there are changes, differences, so that the one on the slide occurs that changes, I guess. I don't know. But differences, I'm not clear, right?
I thought, on a lighter note, I would say that I thought that I was thinking very philosophically. But you are a bigger philosopher than me, that life is not a straight line, which I totally agree. But even the curve, which is concave to the origin, even that is not straight. Even that is not linear. Okay, couple of more ideas, and then I would try to disclose. Yes. Just a sec. So the bottom one? Yeah. Both are decreasing. Now, if you look at the bottom picture here, can you guys see the handwritten pictures I drew?
Yes.
Okay. There are two non-linear thing. The left corner is non-linear convex. The bottom one is non-linear concave. Okay. The concave is not real. It doesn't exist, even though it's non-linear. My friend said that life is very non-linear. I agree with him, but concave doesn't exist. The straight line is very utopian thing, is just an idealistic thing. It never exists. So if you look at the overall trend, when one increases, other decreases. Whether it's a convex or concave or straight line, okay? When X increases, Y decreases. Question is, what is the rate of decrease of Y? What is the speed? What is the velocity of fall in Y? And that is, if it is concave, every time you produce more X, you give up more and more and more Y. Straight line, every time you produce more X, you give up constant Y. And the third thing is that every time you produce more X, you give up, but the rate, the velocity, the speed of giving up Y diminishes. So every time when X goes up, Y goes down. The question is, what we are contemplating now is that, why is this speed increasing every time?
Can I have a guess?
Okay. What is the comment?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
you
think
can say. Mhm.
it's difference between food and clothes. Like 1 kilo of food is way cheaper than 1 kilo of clothes. Like you have to spend more to be able to have clothes
Do I
rather than.
write in the picture that I'm taking food and clothes in kilos?
I'm sorry.
I'm measuring them in their appropriate units. So I can
Appropriate
say
unit.
that the clothing is measured in meters and food is measured in kilos. So the scale doesn't make any difference.
No, I mean like €1. If you spend €1, you can buy one apple. But if to be able to have a clothes, you have to spend more, like €10 or €20. It's the difference between.
Okay, if it is 10 euros, then why it doesn't remain constant throughout? Then why the shape of the curve is convex?
So,
I agree. Okay, whatever you say, I accept. But even in that case, why the shape is not straight line or concave? Why convex?
well, as I said, straight line is ideal, but it's more European ideal. What it have to be, but it doesn't occur in real life.
Okay, I'll come back to you. Is anybody else? Yes, the lady at the back.
Country has some resources, financial, whatever.
Yeah.
And when the country decides to put resources into the unit of something,
Mm-hmm.
then the more it gives sources for one thing, the more it will have to sacrifice the other thing, because it's impossible that you want more than you need to sacrifice more things.
Okay, but why this phenomena exist? Why you have to sacrifice more? Okay, I come back and maybe we can have follow-on discussion. Okay, in reality, we were in the beginning at point X. Yeah. Okay, that is the starting point. Imagine you are working as the marketing professionals, all of you. So then you are transferred to a new job where you have to manage finances of the company. Are you so programmed intellectually that suddenly you move your job designation and you will be equally and even more proficient? Are you getting my idea? I'm bringing the example from the economy to the corporate level, to the company level. You are doing a job at point X, and suddenly you have to change your job profile to Y. Are you educated in every field? Do you have the same amount of experience in every field? Do you have the expertise in everything? No. So there is a limitation to substitutability of factors. Not every factor is equally proficient in everything. Even the land is not equally proficient in everything. There are many crops in Finland which you cannot grow elsewhere. And there are many crops which are grown elsewhere, cannot be grown in Finland. Can you grow rice in Finland? I want to see somebody growing rice in Finland. Why? Because the land, the composition, the configuration of land is not same as the land you see in Sri Lanka or Bangladesh. It means that the factors are not perfectly substitutable. And I want to see somebody growing apples in Sri Lanka. But that's why I just said. I happen to say it. So there is a limitation of substitutability because we are not equally proficient. We are not equally efficient in everything. So because of this, the sacrifice, when you move from one point to another point, your marginal sacrifice increases. Just guess what? You have been working in a job for the last 5 years. Every day you come, you log in your computer, you open your software, and you work as you've been doing normally. And after a few hours, your boss comes and say, hey, your seat is changed now. You're transferred to a new city, new position, new software, new system. Would you be equally efficient right from the word go at a new position, new job? Not at all. I give you my experience. This autumn for me has been a taxing autumn, not because of COVID thing or the other issues, not only for me, but for my colleagues also. Guess why? Even though my job is same, every autumn I teach economics. But guess what? We have changed all our information systems. I moved from Optima to Moodle, from ASIO to Pepti. And it is taking me awful amount of time, energy, and focus. Every week, we are having 3 workshops about these new systems. So it means that my marginal sacrifice to move from one aspect of knowledge to another aspect of knowledge is increasing. Last year, previous year, there was no problem because I was working, there was no movement. There was no movement from X to Y. But now, because I moved from X to Y point, my additional incremental sacrifice is increasing. But okay, at some stage, I would regain my efficiencies at some stage. So, but the point I'm trying to make is that the things are not instantaneous. Things are not with a click. So when you are transferring resources from one usage to another usage, there are imperfections. And one of the biggest imperfection is that the substitutability of resources is not equally good. Some of you would train more in marketing during your IB program. Some of you will be my victims in finance, okay? So what will happen? When you graduate, not all of you would be equally efficient. Not only your grades will be different, but your area of expertise would be different as well. Now imagine the finance guy, they graduate and they get marketing job. And the person who has done more marketing courses get a finance job. That transition would be quite complicated. So there would be additional sacrifices. So the marginal sacrifice, so that is why the production possibility curve looks like this. It's a very abstract phenomena, but we can learn and try to apply even at the very micro level, at very small level, at the firm level, at your job level. Now, I give you one more example. You will be doing your group assignments. Yeah? You will have to do. Yes, I can be a bit ruthless at times. You make a team of 5 students. One of you is very good at visualization of the slides. The other person is very good at storytelling, you know, the narrative based. The third person is very good at finding the additional resources. And the fourth person is very good organizer. And everything is going fine. And one fine day, you have to swap your responsibilities. Would you be equally efficient? You have to learn new skills. So there would be pain, there would be sacrifice, there will be pinch. And that exactly is called increasing opportunity cost. We have a we have a law of inertia in sciences, which means that we always like to be what we are. Change is very costly. Change is very painful. And when you change from X to Y, you have to go through those pangs and those, you know, the torture. And that exactly is PPC, production possibility curve. And the concept is called opportunity cost. I hope it makes sense. So it's an abstract theory. So, but we're trying to make it more workable. Yes. If you look at this curve now, you still have food and clothing, yeah? First, you have the blue curve, and then you have the red curve. It means that when the economy was having lesser resources, you know, you cannot produce indefinitely, can you? No. So when the economy was having lesser resources, you were able to produce less food and less clothing, yeah? And in between, you were able to make different combinations. But imagine there is a technological development. You got more resources. There's more money coming in the economy. More employment is there. More FDIs are coming. You know, the more foreign investment is coming to your country. And what happens? The country is able to produce more output of both commodities. Then what happens? Then your production possibility curve goes up. Okay, and this journey from blue line, blue curve to the red curve is called economic growth. So if somebody asked you, what is economic growth, but don't speak, just draw. Then you say that when economy was in the X stage or in the old economy, the old times, because of lack of resources, because of the poor quality of resources, because of less technological advancements, we used to experience this PPC. But now we are in the 21st century. We have more resources. We have better resources. We have far more technological advancements. And thus, we are able to produce more clothing and at the same time, more food. Thus, we are not resting on the same fuddy-duddy blue PPC. We move to the new PPC altogether. We make an improvement. So this is an economic progression. From blue to red movement is economic progression. But at the same time, we also regress, don't we? So if you move from red to blue, this is economic regression. So we can progress, we can regress, and the same is true in life as well. We make progression, we make regression as well. So it depends upon what we are. Yeah. Yes. What time we? Is it 5:30? I guess. Today's 4:45. Is it progression or regression? Are you sure it's
1.5 hour class, but in calendar it shows.
Really?
Because the first week.
So you could see that the movement along the blue line, the blue curve, shows that we are living in the present and there is no increase, because in the short period, you cannot increase your resources, You cannot increase your GDP. You can only move between one output to another. For example, if you are close to this point, X point, then you are producing more food in comparison to clothing. But if you're close to this point where my cursor is moving now, you can say that you are the country, the economy is producing more clothing and relatively lesser food, but you're only moving between one product to another. So it's like a, it's a choice between food and clothing. You can't produce more food and more clothing. Yeah, that's only possible when there is an economic growth. When the economy grows and you are able to produce more of both food and clothing. Okay, and I wrote here 5 years time. It's not 5 years time always. It's not a divine truth, 5 years. Sometimes economies are not able to grow for decades, and sometimes they grow very fast. Look at, for example, China's growth rate in the last decade. It has always been, except for 1 or 2 years, it has been double digit most of the time. India, close to double digit. And Bangladesh, doing marvelous job, right? So there are many newly emerging economies. Vietnam is a new manufacturing hub nowadays and in the future also. Marvelous economic success by Vietnam. So if you look at these countries, their economic growth has been 8%, 9%, 7%, right? So it shows that they might take less time, but then you have some Latin American countries, you have some African countries where the growth rate is very low. So in those countries, it will take them more time to catch up. If you look at the history, most of the Latin American countries and the Asian countries, they got independence almost same time. In 1940, 1950s, that decade was a time when the colonialism was shrinking. After Second World War, all the superpowers, they were not able to, keep their former colonies, and they left those countries, even though they left them in very bad shape. But the economic journey of different countries has been very, very different. Some economies grew very fast. For example, South Korea, it was nothing in 1970s, and look at South Korea now. Japan, a war-ravaged country, bombarded with atoms and whatnot, and then the country becomes reach the pinnacles of economic success. And then we have some countries who are that time very fast growing, but then they lost in oblivion. And then there were some countries who were doing nothing. They were, the economies were very bad, and because they discovered some very precious natural resources, like these West Asia, Gulf countries, and this liquid gold, we call it, was the attraction. And look at now those countries like UAE, Saudi Arabia, those countries, Kuwait, amazing success. Okay. Then there were some countries who were like sleeping, making no progress, like India. They say, all right, everything is karma. And then comes liberalization in 1990s, and the economy totally transformed within a few years. So every country has a phase like we have. Now, as I said, I'm much older than you. Most of you are younger than me by more than 100%. I can say that life has patches. So my friend who said that life is not linear is right. So we always have non-linearity in our life. Some phases we are growing fast. Some phases we are rather regressing. Some phases we grow not much as we desire to. So like we have, the individuals have the life cycle of evolution. As we evolve, so are the countries, so are the companies. I can move this example from country to company. You are a small startup having very few resources, able to produce very less. But with your constant conviction, with your, you are go-getter, you are progressing, you are able to get more funding. You are able to employ more better trained labor. You are able to overhaul your machinery and bring the latest state-of-the-art technology. And guess what happens? Your market share increases. You are able to produce more, better, with the least cost. So this phase, even though this seems to be a life cycle of a country, but if I impose this reality, this is applicable to the companies and also to the individuals as well. Make sense? Here, just a small question to you. We are at the PPC, X and Y, and then the third point, V. At X and Y, we are only producing, at X, we are producing more food comparatively and lesser clothing comparatively. At Y, we are producing more clothing than food comparatively. But what about this point V? What does it show? What does it show? Is it good or bad? Is it a good point or bad point?
I think it's a bad point.
Can you say more?
Resources are being wasted.
Exactly. Because at V point, look at the cursor. You're producing this much food, this much clothing and this much food, yeah? Whereas for the same food, you can produce more of clothing. Or for the same clothing, you could produce more food. It means that Y is a point of inefficiency. Y is a point of inefficiency because you have the capacity to produce more food and more clothing. But because of your poor management, because of your poor organization, and because of whatever reasons, you are not capable of making use of your full potentiality. And as a result, you are wasting your resources. And resources wastage is unacceptable. You cannot waste your resources. If you want to see the future of an economy, don't look, now I'm sounding a bit philosophical now. If you want to see how the future of an economy look like, don't see how good roads they have, how many limousine and all those Ferraris are moving on the roads. Look how much they waste. If they waste more, they don't have bright future. And if they are wasting less, they have a bright future. If you're living in a country where you have the cars which are not using the oil, but they're just sniffing the oil. And then the other kind of cars which are drinking the oil. And then you have the graveyards of all those expensive cars because people just use and throw. They don't understand the economic hardships. Those economies usually don't have a very good future. Their success is short-lived. And those countries where resource waste is considered as a social. I remember one example. A friend of mine told they were dining in a country I will not name, in Europe, that I can name. They ordered food, a lot of food. There were less people, food was wasted. And when they were about to finish food, they asked, okay, all right, can we have the bill? And the steward comes and he says, okay, this is the bill. And just when they were about to leave the table, there was an old lady sitting next table, and they confronted my friends. And they said that, why are you wasting so much food? In the beginning, this argument was very polite, but at some stage, the argument got heated. And my friend said that, hey, what is to you? What is to you? It's me who's paying the bill. I said, no. If you can have more notes in your wallet that never compensate the resources you have wasted of this, our country, our society, we could have fed 5 more hungry people with this much food. That shows the character. Okay, so no resource wastage is acceptable to at any point. So if you are at point V, it's unacceptable. Can I ask you, in a given situation, can you go beyond? Can you be here? Can you be here? Can you? Oh, that's nice music. Even the singer is not my favorite, but still. So, can you be here?
Yes, we can in a couple of years.
Yeah. Sorry, what did you say?
I said if we have a good management and in a couple of years we can be there.
Yeah, you can reach there. And Paula, that's what you said? You're Paula? So that's what you said, that not with a given technology, not with the given resources. So it will take you time. Like this, that you are a company and you have less resources, so it will take some time before you reach this point. I can give you the life cycle of many companies. LG, the very famous South Korean company, the Lucky Star Gold, they used to make only toys, the plastic toys. But when this company became bigger, the toys, then they diversify to more different products, and ultimately they became giant in the field of electronic products. And I think something similar life cycle is of Nokia, isn't? Nokia was not originally an IT company. I guess they were making some tires or some plastic, some rubber things, which they still do, I guess. Yeah. I remember one conference I was, I guess it was in Brussels, and somebody said, look at Nokia, look at what they're doing. They're making rubber shoes now. And I said, hey, they haven't started making now. They have always been making. In fact, they were originally meant for, they started their business in the field of the rubber products only. So yeah, so there's always a life cycle in our lives. Very quickly, I want to apply the concept of opportunity cost in the field of corporate sector. And this picture I took from Harvard Business Review, and the Harvard Business Review took this picture from this source. And it shows that the concept of opportunity cost becomes more profound, more prominent when it's time of crisis. When you have the plenty of resources, when you're living in the great times, you don't really are too much aware of the concept of opportunity cost. When there's more scarcity, then this concept is haunting you much more strongly. You with me? Those people who were born, not born, but those people who got jobs in 1980s or early 1990s. Because from 1980s to mid 90s was a time when the global economy was growing very fast. Almost every economy in the world, of course with some exceptions, but generally speaking, the global economies were doing decent jobs. Stock markets were going up, employment was increasing, USA manufacturing going up, China coming up. Okay, India still a bit going through these phases. Europe doing marvelous job. If you were employed during those times, you don't understand the idea of unemployment. And if you graduate when this economic crisis struck in 2007, when Lehman Brothers got bankrupt, when there was a series of bankruptcies, or when you get a job, when you apply for a job in March 2020, then you understand the concept of opportunity cost. Now, here I give one example that now here I move away from the country to the companies. And what I'm trying to convey you is that when there is an economic crisis, you can see that after mid 90s or close to 2000, there was an economic downturn slowly at the global level. So you can see that from 1996, for most of the American companies, the research and development expenditure was increasing, yeah, up to close to 2000. And if you look at from 99 onwards, the patents, the copyrights, their graph has gone up suddenly. And this almost is coinciding when they are going down, when the R&D investment is going down, that is a time when the patents are going up. Now this is a one graph, random graph, but what does it show? It shows that when the companies were experiencing wonderful time, the good time, the positive time, they didn't feel the need to patent the new products. They were inventing, reinventing, improving the existing products and services. Okay? But when they felt the heat of crisis, heat of scarcity, then what they do? They are diminishing expenditure on R&D, which is essentially for the same products. Because their argument was that, hey, if there are 5 companies and each of them is trying to improve the same product and service, then I can copy your idea. You can copy my idea. We become free riders. It's like a group assignment to 5 students and everybody is waiting the other person to start. So when there was a crisis time, the companies were not willing to spend on innovating the new products, because when you have a crisis, you have more suspicion. See, crisis is not about the resource-based phenomenon. Crisis hits our psychology. Crisis hit our psyche. We start becoming more suspicious. Have you ever noticed that why in Europe and elsewhere the right-wing parties are becoming very prominent these days? It is because of crisis. Because then you become more introvert, you become more insecure, we start getting frightened of some invisible forces. So that is what happened to the companies also. And we think that the people who are Harvard educated or Stanford educated are have a great vision. I'm talking about the big companies of USA. So what they do, they start shrinking their R&D, and instead they start developing completely different products from each other, because it's difficult to copy a process, but it's difficult to copy a product. If we are making same product and I make a process innovation, it's not difficult to copy, because after all, we are making same product. But then if I'm so scared, if I'm so introvert, if I become so insecure, I stop inventing the same process. I rather start developing new product altogether, because I feel, okay, I may have losses, but then I know that nobody can copy me. And this is exactly when this opportunity cost comes in the picture, because people feel that the opportunity cost of investing in research and development is increasing because people can copy. In the good times, you don't care if somebody copies, because the market is so big that even if somebody copies your process, you are still able to reach your customers. But in the bad times, you are fighting for certain sections of the market and you don't want to give up. So in that case, you think that it will pinch you really hard if you make some R&D investment and somebody copies you. So then we move to a new product altogether. So this example is a real life example, and it shows the behavior of as I said, that when you are living in the good times, you don't care about these things. But when you are feeling the scarcity, then we become more insecure. But the problem with the companies is that they take success for granted in the good times. Good times are very dangerous. You make historic mistakes in the good times because you become complacent. You take success for granted. And when those bad decisions mature, then comes crisis. Then we become more insecure, and so on and so forth. Yeah. One more example. Read this paragraph for a few minutes. You have to read quickly because I need to leave you at 5:30, not 10:30. Well, somebody, if you want, you can stay. Try to read in 2-3 minutes this paragraph, and I want you to give some inputs about it. And this is also from Harvard Business School publication, so you can see the full link in case you want to read the full text. The real message is somewhere here, actually, just here. You don't have to read all the paragraph, the whole one. I think if you only read this much, that will be enough.
I think it's just talks about what you said. In the long term, in the bad times, they give up on R&D, which is long term investments, to get shorter success.
Yeah.
So it looks like they earn, but in the long term they lose because they give up on research and development.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Any opinion, friends? Any take you have? No?
What does it mean, achieve smoother earnings?
Smoother earning is earning manipulation. The companies do manipulations. The companies, sometimes I call it sarcastically, data massaging. They try to massage data. The data is manipulated and it doesn't show the reality. I remember a company called Enron, which got bankrupt in 2001. And that company, during the year 2001, when it became bankrupt, 2 weeks before its actual bankruptcy, the company was 4th most successful company in the United States of America. It was number 4 or 5th, I guess, in the Forbes list of the most successful company.
It was an energy company, right?
It was an energy company, and if you YouTube Enron, you will have hundreds of videos, and you'll be surprised to see. And what that company was doing, it was borrowing so much, giving that money to its shareholders and top leaders, and not showing those borrowings in the books. So people would believe that the company is doing a marvelous job, but it was a blind leading a blind. It was a sinking ship. So that is called data massaging, manipulation or smoothing, whatever. Yeah. Yes, anybody quickly, can you say the gist of this text? Otherwise, I have to speak. You have to listen to my monologues. Yes, gentlemen. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. If you become CEO of a company or CFO of a company, would you like to have a short-term vision or long-term vision? Mm-hmm. But there's a problem. But there's a problem. The problem is that if you make some long-term investment, it will definitely give you fruits after many years. So until then, your financial performance can go down, or then by the time the fruits come, you may not be the CEO anymore. You can be replaced by somebody else. So are you so kind that you want somebody else to take credit for your work? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You want your place from the work,
Mm-hmm.
and the company can just show the good financial results because the short-term investments will work for you.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So when the short-term investment will just end,
Mm-hmm.
like sell some assets or
Yep.
something like that, the long-term will not.
Very well said. Very well said. So the survey shows that 78% of the managers of the top companies in the USA, you know what they're saying? They say that, hey, we want to be the long-term oriented, but if there's a choice between, if our long-term actions are leading to our short-term financial performance going down, we cannot tolerate it. Then we will give up our long-term approach and rather we live on a short-term basis. This is the philosophy of the 78% managers in the USA, not the small companies, but the big companies. That 78% of top managers, they say that they can never tolerate the short-term profits going down. Because if they show less profits in the short period, what will happen? The share price will go down. And when the share price will go down, those managers would be questioned by the board of directors. Hey, why the stock price is going down? And you say, you are a good manager, got educated in Harvard and all the best universities, and you believe in ethics, responsibility, and in the company's long-term approach. And then you give a presentation, ladies and gentlemen, don't get scared. It's a long-term investment. We will have good outcome in the future. And then some board member stops you abruptly. Hey, shut your mouth. You are no longer CEO of the company. Get lost. We don't care about what happens in the future. In the long term, we all are dead. We want our short-term results now. And this short-term myopic approach is more prominent when we are having the scarcity time. In the good times, the board gives you free hand to experiment. But when there's a bad time, then your wings are clipped and you feel yourself a bird in the cage, even though you are a CEO of a company, but your powers are considerably reduced. And then what happens? Then you go with the flow. You can be a fantastic human being, but you don't dare to think for the company's future. Then the present becomes more important than the future. Thank you very much for your patience. And I'm sorry about this timing thing. I would get it sorted. So next time, even though I'm not able to change in PEPI, which I will be able to change by tomorrow, but just in case I'm not, the lecture would always go for an hour and a half. Okay, thank you so much. I'm not giving you any homework yet because we are still just building up our course. But in a week or so, I'll give you some small assignments to work as well. Thank you so much. And have a nice weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Seher would copy all the comments. So in case something is ignored, we will get back to you. Bye-bye. And see ya. And have a nice
Thank you.
Relax, enjoy. And
quick question.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Professor. So I've transferred from another university, actually. I have some credits from previous school. I've taken micro and macroeconomics. So I want to acknowledge that to the school so that I don't have to take the same courses over and over.
Do you want to get your accreditation?
Exactly, yes.
Okay, so can I ask you which university you were in?
Queen's College from United States.
Okay, so it was not school education, it was the college. It was after secondary schooling, yeah?
Yes.
Could you do me a favor? Could you send me your transcripts, the copies of transcripts?
Sure,
I can
yes.
go, and if possible, can you also send me the syllabus, what you studied?
Syllabus, like each courses?
Yeah, at least economics.
Economics. Okay,
Yeah,
I can
micro and macro, yeah.
Okay, I can email them.
Yeah,
to get me a
course
syllabus.
tutor. Like I have the course description in PEPI. I'm sure they would be having as well. So if you send an email to your former teacher that if he or she can send you the transcript of your degree, but I think that you will be having. And if they can also send you the syllabus of both courses of economics, then I would assess them. And if they are at par with what we have here, then you can get the accreditation, and then you don't need to study economics, and then you will get the,
Is it
accreditation.
is it only microeconomics and macroeconomics, or
Broadly
all the
speaking, micro and macro.
Okay, so I still have to take economics class, this class.
Look, if you said that you have studied micro and macroeconomics, yeah?
Yes.
If you get those transcripts and syllabus that you studied,
Okay.
and if me and my colleagues are convinced that you have done essentially whatever is required, okay, then we can give you accreditation.
Okay.
But it's not promised. It depends upon what you give to me, and it depends upon our study, what we get out of that.
Okay. So is accounting also?
No. Accounting is a different thing.
Okay, so it's not about you.
Only no. Accounting is not economics. Accounting is next semester.
Okay, I'll do micro and macroeconomics.
Yeah, micro and macro. Yes, that you can do. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
No worries. All right. So see you folks next week.